FM.
I'm here in London, joined by Rach. Welcome along.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, I approached because I saw the article you did by the BBC.
Yeah.
Was it last month?
Yeah, end of last month.
Yeah. And you were first. I did put this story on the radio as well, actually.
Okay.
And I did mention the airport story where you got into the airport,
Yeah.
trying to go to Barcelona for the township, and then you found out the airport was left hours ago.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. So with that story, and to give it some context, I was a university student and I had an internship, and my internship paid €500 a month. That's not a lot of money, and it wasn't a lot of money back then. And then I also got, let's say, I think around €400 by the Spanish government as part of the Erasmus program. So just to give it context, it seems very glamorous. I had an internship in Barcelona, but I was not making a lot of money. So what happened was I had come home for the weekend, and I need to catch a flight back to work on the Sunday to go to work on the Monday. I get to the airport, and I'm going past the gates to go through security, and I'm scanning my boarding pass and it's not scanning, and I'm just like, this machine. I try another one and it's not scanning. I try another one and I'm freaking out thinking, did I print off the wrong, boarding pass? I go to the security guard, he tries to scan it again, and then he looks at the ticket and he was just like, your flight was in the morning, like it's gone. And I'm reading it, and that's when I see that I completely misread the time that my flight was meant to take off, and I had to pay around over £200 to get another flight out. And someone who is earning €500 a month, and then a few €100 from the Spanish government, that is a lot of money for someone who is like young and has an internship. So it really, really, really crippled me and set me back financially for at least the next month and a half.
That's just.
I can't believe it still.
Yeah. This was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When was that?
This was in 2015, so a while ago. And this was when I wasn't even diagnosed with ADHD.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's been like, because I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD then, I'm not realising that a lot of these things are the result of having ADHD and not having coping strategies. So that situation continues to like happen in different ways. Like I said, with credit card bills, with like my dentist bills due to procrastination, which I'm sure we'll get into. So there are so many different areas in my life that ADHD tax continues, to show up.
So, as a child growing up, you didn't notice any signs, or parents, no signs of it?
Do you know what it is? Because back then, so I was born in 1994, recently turned 30, and as a kid, I heard the term ADHD in primary school, but it was always associated with naughty boys who were very hyperactive. And as a kid, at that age, I wasn't visibly hyperactive. I think I did a lot of masking. Being like a black woman, first generation immigrant, you're kind of like taught to, carry yourself well in public, work twice as hard and, put on this facade. So I would mask, heavily with that. And so when I progressed on to, let's say, secondary school, growing up as a teenager, I felt more like myself. So I'd call out, I'd fidget, answer my pants, very visibly hyperactive and inattentive. And I actually had to go and see a school counsellor because it was getting out of hand. And she was teaching me tips on how to pause before I blurt things out or do things. So she would say you have to hold your thumb down for 15 to 20 seconds and then you'll be okay. So for me, that should have been enough signs. Parents' evenings, my teachers would say to my parents, I had the attention span of a goldfish. I've got so many school reports. The signs were there, but women, I assume, just weren't seen to have ADHD, and I don't think we're being diagnosed with ADHD at that age.
You got diagnosed in 2020.
Yeah.
During COVID?
Before COVID.
Before.
So I started the process before COVID. So a bit of backstory. In 2016, I started to notice that I was, very forgetful. I would leave the house and completely forget where I was meant to go for a couple of seconds. I would
That's
leave.
normal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's okay, that's normal. Yeah, I was would like lose things, and my world started to spiral, and I don't know what it was at that point. Maybe things just start to catch up with you, because I have ADHD combined type, and I guess they're driven by a motor brain of mine. Just kept going, didn't realise, and there was a point in time where I started to notice all of these things about myself. Went on Google, and it said I could have early onset dementia. So I was just like, right, this is it, this is what was wrong with me. Booked an appointment with my GP, and she said, no, you definitely don't have early onset dementia, but let's do a memory test. So my GP office, it sounds ridiculous, it is, I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, done a memory test, and I had to repeat like 7 or 8 words backwards, like beach, cat, dog. Of course I passed on the spot. And she said, well, you don't have dementia, early onset dementia, but I think you're just disoriented. 2016, 2 years down the line, 2018 comes, I watch a documentary that features adults with ADHD, and I see myself for the first time, and I'm like, these are grown adults, even like men and women that have ADHD. This could be it. Went to Google, did a lot of these online tests.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dr. Google.
Yeah, Dr. Google, yeah. But then I wasn't convinced, because, again, 2 years before I thought I had early onset dementia, so I went to my GP. She said, no, you don't have ADHD, you graduated, you have a good job, like you can't. I have a patient that has ADHD and you're not like them. And I was just like, no, like this is it, like, and I had to advocate for myself. So I gave her examples of how I was as a child, how I was as an adult, and a lot of people tell you that online, like you're going to have to advocate for yourself, because not many adults back then were being diagnosed with ADHD. This was in 2018. And I said to her, look, you've been my doctor since I was a child. I never come to you for anything. You know I have migraines. Please just refer me. And if I don't have it, that's fine. I don't have it. She said, well, it's going to take up to 2 years, but I'll refer you anyways. And I thought she said that to dissuade me, but she was actually correct, because between 2018 and 2020, I saw one psychiatrist. He gave me an assessment, and he said, yeah, it looks like you have ADHD, but on the NHS you need another psychiatrist to confirm it. And then that psychiatrist appointment was in January 2020. And then I was diagnosed with ADHD combined type on the spot, and that's when my advocacy journey started.
And you went to your GP,
yeah, I was just like, that was what I thought was wrong with me, or like a sign of relief, but then it's like, wow, I wish I had knew this earlier. I felt like I would have been further along in life, all of the mistakes I made. So it's a feeling of like overwhelm, happiness, relief, and grief all in one sitting.
Yeah. So, just with the confirmed diagnosis, did you notice any differences between before and after the diagnosis?
And are you talking about once I've had like meds or support? So on that day, so I started medication, very hesitant, because I was already taking medication for migraines for many years. I am anemic, so I was taking medication, and I just wasn't a fan of pills then, but I took it, my psychiatrist walked me through it, and when I first took it, I was on short-acting meds. I noticed a difference in my alertness, my motivation, but it's guided. So I already had a lot of energy, but it was misplaced energy, whereas when I started taking the meds, there was this focus, and I was going in a straight line. So I was just like, wow, it's all very organized and clear-headed. But then once you're diagnosed with ADHD and you start meds, I should say there is a titration period, because the first medication you try might not work for you, or they might have side effects. So the one I tried, I would crash. It was short-acting, and it just wasn't sitting well with me. But since then, I've transitioned into like a long-acting med, and it's night and day. Being motivated, friendships, being able to maintain friendships, because I'm able to communicate, stay on top of things, just my own like self-esteem, and being a bit more organised in like my finances and my personal life. It's a massive difference.
And just seeing the differences with your friends, work colleagues.
Yeah.
Did they sort of say,
Yeah, my friends, and actually I have 2 sisters, and when I told them I got diagnosed with ADHD, they're like, oh, that makes sense, because when they're speaking to me, I'm daydreaming, or I'm on the phone, I'm doing so many different things at once. And when I started taking meds, I was more proactive in reaching out to friends, responding to like messages, not forgetting birthdays or events, so being like a good friend and being supportive. I'm lucky enough to have understanding friends, but then some friends, looking back, I can see why the friendships had fizzled out because I just wasn't there for them the way they needed me to be there. And I thought what I was doing was normal. I didn't see an issue with it really, but yeah, I've seen a massive difference in those areas.
Yeah, because I've sort of noticed with other people that I know that things shift before and afterwards. So and you're quite well known on Instagram and TikTok as well.
Yeah, TikTok, Twitter, Substack.
All that. With adulting ADHD.
Yeah.
You started this during the COVID?
Yeah, so I'd say April 2020.
Yeah. And what was the reason for starting that?
Yeah, it was by accident. I never planned. I prefer to kind of like be behind the scenes. I was in my career, I wasn't really trying to be chronically online. But so when you get diagnosed by the NHS, at least back then, you are given a year of appointments with a psychiatrist on a monthly basis, just to see how you're getting on with the medication and everything like that. Yeah, so in January, I think I had 1 or 2 appointments between January and March, and then lockdown happened.
Yeah.
I get a letter in the post from the ADHD clinic, I wish I bought it, that said, the ADHD clinic is closed because of the pandemic, we'll reach out to you. Never heard from them, so my support system was gone. During that time, I hadn't told, I probably had only told 3 people in my family that I got diagnosed, but you know, their understanding isn't there, so they can't help me, I can't even help myself. So I knew that there had to be an online community somewhere where people are talking about things. I found it on Twitter, I searched ADHD in the search bar, and I was like, wow, there are loads of people talking about it. And at the same time, I started a newsletter on Substack to kind of, as a diary, but then also to document what I've been up to. So when my appointments resume, I can show my psychiatrist. And then lastly, I would read some stuff about ADHD online. There are amazing people who are raising awareness long before me, but I wanted it to be like very informal, like a buddy talking about it, like not proper, just a personal experience. And I was like, do you know what, let me just do it and see. From asking questions on Twitter, connecting with the community and writing, it just completely like grew, started speaking at companies, being featured in a lot of these publications. And if the pandemic didn't happen or my appointments continued to go on, I don't think ADHD would exist right now.
To be fair, that was the next question I was going to say. If not for the COVID pandemic, would it still happen?
No, I think I'd be on Twitter, but I don't think it would have. Twitter probably for the most part, but no. So I felt forced to kind of advocate for myself and write about it.
And where did you see it reach its peak, the accounts?
Yeah, so I think Twitter for me was when I would just ask questions because I'm trying to understand, and I saw people would look in the thread and start having conversations with each other, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is helpful. So me asking questions were helping other people answer some of the questions they had. And for about a year I was anonymous, so I wasn't very proud and out. I had an Avi, my actual name Rach wasn't on there. And then the peak hit, I think, when I got featured in the New York Times and my face was on like the cover of the article. And New York Times, I think they assessed credibility, and they were just, that kind of put a stamp on what I was doing, my writing and my tweets, and it kind of took off even more from there.
And how did the BBC get you to do the article then? They must have looked around on Instagram and going, oh wow.
Yeah, so Alex from the BBC name's Alex, are you going to cut this? I'm sure it's Alex from the BBC. Have I got his name wrong? Do I have time to check?
No, I can have a look at it.
Because I want to give him his props. Let's see. Yes. So Alex Collins from the BBC, who wrote the article, had approached me on Twitter. I think Twitter is where I do most of my work in Substack. Yeah, X. Should say X. and said, they're doing a piece on ADHD tags for the BBC Access All podcast. I had actually featured in the Metro a few years ago about ADHD tags.
Oh, the Access All with Nikki Fox.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nikki Fox and Emily, I can't remember her last name. Emily was a
I
presenter.
just found the keys.
Yeah. And I have YouTube videos on there, Instagram, Substack. I've spoken about ADHD tags quite a lot. And so when I looked at it, I was thinking, should I do this again? But it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. He's a really nice guy. And so it was a podcast. So I spoke in the podcast, and then he wanted to do a write-up about it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Again, I've been featured in quite a few news publications, so I just thought, okay, it's just another one. Like, it's not going to be like this big thing. And then it was major, and this is the first article that was major in real life. So people at work, people in my church, people, my neighbours were saying, I've seen you on the BBC, and this, out of everything that I've been in, it has never happened this way. But then other people coming out and saying, glad you spoke about this, I've been embarrassed, this is a real issue, I feel so much better knowing that you've spoken about it. So that for me has been like a good takeaway from it. Yeah.
And just seeing your photo.
Yeah. Yeah, just there. It was, and then on someone said they saw it on the front page, it was everywhere. So it was surprising, and I was overwhelmed. Part of me was just like, should I just switch my phone off for a week and disappear? But a lot of positive messages came up from them, and a lot of people started to think I could have ADHD, not just based on what they read, but based on other things.
And when you started the blog and everything, and it all went a bit viral, did you said you weren't set out to do anything, that's my mistake,
Yeah.
but how far into it did you know that you were going to be raising awareness about it, and maybe to other people to say, oh, maybe I've got that?
Yeah, so I was writing how I speak, so there's lots of grammatical errors, like it's not a proper article, it's just me, a blog.
Yeah.
And it's when I started receiving comments from people in Substack, but then also online, saying it really resonated with them. And I think during the pandemic, a lot of people, especially women, paused to think, okay, my life is turned upside down, I'm starting to notice all of these things, could it be ADHD? And then reading my blog, they felt quite validated. And for me, the biggest, I think when I felt like it reached its peak is when people were telling me, thanks to your blog, I got assessed and I got diagnosed with ADHD. People in their 40s, 50s, 60s, all genders, all races, and that's when I was just like, wow, I can't believe it. Yeah.
And did you face any difficulties or challenges before you got diagnosed with ADHD? Like breakdowns of residents would have discussed that, but was there any other parts of life that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you've heard the term rejection sensitive dysphoria. It usually refers to extreme emotional sensitivity as a result of the perception that you've been criticised or rejection, or actually being criticised or rejected. And for me, I struggled with emotional regulation as a kid and as a teen. Didn't know how to regulate my emotions, and I guess having ADHD and being anxious kind of exacerbated that. And so the way I would deal with my emotions is lash out. I'd get very angry, harm myself, or turn to very unhealthy coping strategies because I couldn't make sense of my own brain, and I just didn't know how to handle that. So there was that kind of emotional angle, but then also kind of never feeling good enough. I try, and it's not enough. What would take someone an hour to do could take me a day or two to do, and I just never knew what it was. So yeah, there were so many different areas that I struggled with, whether it was at the university, personal life, or at work, even before I got diagnosed.
Did you get any support at uni?
Pardon?
Did you get any support at uni?
No, because again, I was still in this limbo of, okay, what it is, what is wrong with me. I don't know how great universities are now, and I'm hoping they get better, and I'm hoping to do some work with universities with people who are neurodivergent or who think they might be neurodivergent. So.
Yeah, I just wonder because there's a support as support team at the university I went to.
Okay.
So I just wondered if that was the same for you. But
Yeah.
and with the blog, we're going to touch on that again now.
Yeah.
Most of the things have been very, very positive.
Yeah.
But has there ever been any hate toward ADHD or towards you on the social media? Or was it mostly,
Yeah.
this is brilliant, this is great?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they have been. I think for me, you get that in general, but I think for me the biggest wow moment I had was on Instagram. So I think I had done a post about ADHD medication, explaining that there are stimulants and stimulants. You should speak to your doctor. Sometimes it's not the only effective thing, or sometimes it doesn't work for individuals. I got a message from someone on Instagram saying I'm promoting ADHD medication to kids, XYZ. My platform is usually about ADHD in adulthood. And I was speaking at EGX the following weekend, which is a gaming conference. I'm a big gamer. And they said, well, I see you're going to be at EGX, I'm going to see you there and you better be ready to debate me. And I was going back and forth with them, was just like, no, I've never done that, so you feel that way, but that's not what my platform's for. And they just kept repeating saying I'm going to be at EGX. So now I'm worried that I'm going to be at a public panel and someone that I don't know, they don't have a face, is going to show up and maybe try to attack me or verbally abused me. So when I got to EGX, I showed the rest of the people on the panel, and then they had got security to come to read the DMs, and they had security stood right by the stage. And anytime someone had asked a question to me, we all kind of looked at each other, was like, is this the person that's going to do it? So I think at that moment, I was just like, wow, social media can be very negative, and thankfully nothing happened, but yeah.
Did you say your therapist lessons or whatever it was? Did that ever get back to you after COVID, or was it just silence?
So it was silent for I think 7-8 months. So it was silent for 7 months, and then I randomly get, I think, an email or a phone call to say, well, we're offering online appointments. Months had gone by, so I think I only had maybe 2 or 3 online appointments. Where I really needed to change my medication, because then I wasn't able to access services. I had to stay on the same meds, so I was able to do that. And I think by then, a lot of the awareness and a lot of the information I learned in myself and community was a good supplement for not having a psychiatrist. But then, luckily, I was still able to access that once they got their stuff, their house in order. And then
you never had them again?
So there is still access. So once you have that year, you get transitions back to your GP, so you can just get medication through them. I still have to speak to a pharmacist every couple of months to see how the meds are doing. I have to do my blood pressure, weight, pulse, all of that, health checks during that. I also had to do an ECG and a full blood workup when I started meds. But if, let's say, I really did need to speak to a psychiatrist, I would have to put in a request to my GP, which could easily take months or a year now, given the backlog. But yeah.
And the meds you have now will be with you for the rest of your life now, or was it just as and when you need them?
Yeah, so they're very effective, and all I get is positives from them. Sometimes I don't take them every day. If, let's say, I'm chilling on the weekend and I don't need them, my psychiatrist did advise it's good to take a med holiday every now and again. So I think for now they're good. I'm not sure what the future holds, but aside from meds, trying to exercise more, eat cleaner, drink a lot of water.
Good job, isn't it?
Yeah, water, turn to my faith and pray. So there's quite a lot of things I do alongside meds to manage ADHD and just navigate life with it.
Yeah, I've never expected someone with ADHD or on the autistic spectrum to have those kind of meds as fun as just deal with it themselves, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a real eye-opener.
Yeah, it's good, but it's a shame that it's not available. Well, not everyone has access to them, even when they are like diagnosed. There's this, ADHD medicines which go in on with loads of medications in different countries, and relying on them to kind of even like function and not having them is so detrimental. So yeah, it's really kind of like said that crisis is going on right now.
And you feel that if something is wrong, you should go to your GP and run to them and say, I've got this, I've definitely got. Is that the sort of thing you would encourage others to do if their doctor's not listening?
Yeah, I would say.
Or does it depend on each individual?
I think now, given there's so much negative news about the overdiagnosis of ADHD, or it's a trend, so many people think they have ADHD, is now a lot of GPs, I've been told, have that mentality. So I would advise people before, of course you've done your research, but really pick out how ADHD impacts you and manifests for you in your life, but not just as an adult, as a child, because ADHD is from childhood. It's not something you kind of get as an adult. It's something you can realise as an adult, but studies, research, and they will tell you it's present in childhood even though it is missed. So they're going to want to see both of those examples. Just like in my case, I had to self-advocate and push. Sometimes, a lot of the times, it's not enough. People have told me it's not enough, and some clinics are saying they can't refer, there's a waiting list, it's not possible, and people are having to turn to private providers to kind of like pay to get assessed, and not everyone has that option to kind of like spend the money on. And with that, medication's more expensive there, some GPs aren't doing shared care, so it's quite difficult.
Yeah. Are you the only one in your family with ADHD? It's not a hereditary condition.
So according to the NHS, I didn't say this, ADHD tends to be hereditary, so you could get it from like one parent. I'm the only person who is diagnosed with ADHD. Sometimes I do look at maybe family members, cousins, maybe could they have ADHD? Am I seeing this? But yeah, I'm the only person who's diagnosed, and I think there's still a lot of stigma, especially in like Afro-Caribbean ethnic minorities families, about their children and people having a disability, that a lot of people don't want to be attached to it, so those conversations, don't tend to happen. So yeah.
And so what would you say to younger children that are going through a similar sort of situation that you went through?
Yeah.
Is there any advice or any sort of support words that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think any of them will be watching this.
Yeah.
Half an hour and I'm not watching that. But
I would say children who aren't teens, it's more of speaking to their parents, because it's the parents who need to kind of, their guardians, they're the ones who lead on getting them assessed and things like that. Don't deprive your child of the extra support they deserve and actually need in life. As a kid, it's the best age to try and get them the support, so when they grow into adulthood, they're able to at least have the tools they need to kind of navigate life. And it's very different, like every stage in life is different. You could be coping well at a younger stage, but once you get older, life happens, so now is the time. And forget about society, like your love and support and care for your kid is more important than the stigma society places them on. For more people who are teens or in university, if your school has an educational department, reach out for support. I know it's hard because there's the shame and embarrassment, especially at that age, having ADHD or being neurodivergent, because kids are mean. They'll say you're dumb, you're lazy, you're stupid. They'll call all of these words, but it's really hard to deal with. But if you can and if you're open to, especially probably people in their early 20s, make an anonymous account on Twitter or a social group to see how you can get the help. If you don't want to kind of go to your education department at school, see what tools people are sharing online and see how you can kind of adopt that to help you navigate life better. So that's what I'd say.
And when it comes to the any advice that you would give adults, like, you know, not the children, but the adults, like,
Yeah, so I think adults who are undiagnosed first of all, don't beat yourself up for basically having to navigate this neurotypical world because societies, workplaces, the world hasn't been kind of built to cater or to accommodate some of the adjustments we need. If you don't have access to kind of be assessed with ADHD or actually have support in terms of medication, therapy, coping strategies, there are lots of information online as to kind of like how to navigate it. Sometimes there is too many. If you're on Facebook, there are Facebook groups typing ADHD, Twitter, or X, you can have a look about ADHD on there, but do seek out help. You don't have to go through this journey alone. If you don't want to tell anyone and you want to be anonymous, kind of like being online is like a really great avenue. There are really good podcasts. I've made flashcards for adults with ADHD, so there are some resources out there.
And those are the flashcards there?
Yes. So these are the flashcards. So I have ADHD combined type. I created flashcards on both the inattentive and the hyperactive type. And how it kind of works, it lists all of the ADHD traits that are listed in the diagnostic criteria. Yes, it's not perfect. You can have a look. And so the format tends to follow a trait. So let's say fidgeting, you'll have a description, then you'll have like an example as adults, reasons why we may like fidget, and then coping strategies, telling people how they can cope and manage it better. And because there's a lot of information online, I thought, okay, bite-sized information they can flick through, they can share others across ADHD traits. So yeah.
Oh, so this is the impulsive type.
Yeah.
So there's a few.
Yes, so there's inattentive type, that's usually associated with traits like lack of attention to detail, poor memory, poor organisation, and then you have the hyperactive impulsive type, which is more to do with impulsiveness, fidgeting, impatience, and things like that.
Yeah, I'm just looking through these, I'm going, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
Definitely not jealous, impatience, but again, a lot of these things could also mean I've got possibly something else. So
Yeah.
It may not be ADHD. A lot of these symptoms, a lot of other are under the umbrella of autism. There's quite a few that match together.
Yeah, there's quite a few, and so what I say to people, because what tends to happen if you speak about ADHD and people say, well, I don't have ADHD, I struggle with this, and there are many ADHD traits that quite a lot of people struggle with, but the difference is with ADHD it's exacerbated and the consequences are different. The impact it has on our lives are completely different. So I always give this example of procrastination. Let's say I have a really bad toothache and I'm procrastinating, so I can't do it like as much as I want to, and it gets really, really bad, but I'm still unable to kind of book that appointment due to not just procrastination, like just poorly organised, so many different things. A neurotypical person would be like, okay, the pain is really bad, I'm just going to book this appointment, I have to do it, so the pain will drive them to do it. With ADHD, even with the pain, you still have the barrier of actually booking that appointment, you know, the dread, the procrastinating, so many different things going on at once, until it's too late, to the point where you can't function because it got in so bad. And then when you get to the appointment, what was meant to be, let's say, a filling turns into either a root canal or actually losing the tooth. So that's kind of like the example I try to give.
Yeah. These were given to you or by them on Amazon or whatever?
I made them.
Oh,
yeah. So
this is your own little business.
Yeah, so I made them during the pandemic on my iPad is that 2021? So I literally made them, got them manufactured, and yeah, I've been selling them for over 2 years
You should
now.
go jump into pen.
That's funny. Yeah, so yeah, I've been selling them for like a while online. It's helped quite a lot of people, even in the process of getting assessed, and those who have already been diagnosed, just to kind of like understand their brain, or people who just want to share with their family and friends.
I'm assuming these have been backed up by research you've done. Yeah.
Yes, so it's very, so what I explain is that these traits are in the diagnostic criteria. I didn't make them up myself, but the descriptions are very linked to kind of like the descriptions online. It's the examples that are very specific to adults. So some of them are my examples, a lot of them are the examples of how I experience and how adults experience it, and the tips are what has worked for me and what has worked for like quite others. So yeah, this is what it is.
Does it look very good?
Thank you.
Thank
you. Yeah.
And you're still working, aren't you?
Yes.
All your blogs and everything else is a side thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so like I said, I completely fell into it and I was just doing it because first I was helping myself. It really helps me get through it, but then helping others, it's just something that I love to do. So it's not like my career or anything like that. I can speak about my other career because I'm not in that, if you want me to. You can crop up a career.
But there's loads of content that you put out now. I'm thinking, are you a content creator, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I would say when it comes to like ADHD, there are people who are content creators and that's what they do, they just create content. And there are like ADHD advocates who create content to kind of like raise awareness and for the kind of the betterment of like all. So I fall in at the advocacy bucket. So when I started raising awareness, I was working as a civil servant, working mainly in like policy and doing this like alongside that. And because I love to multitask, my ADHD brain always has ideas, I want to do so many things at once. It just so happened that I've just been doing both at the same time.
And it's really enough hours in a day.
Yeah.
To do both.
Honestly, I get bored easily, so that's what happens. I get bored easily. I'm able to like hyper focus, but it is very like hard, and I don't tend to have a off button, which is why I burn out quite quickly. But yeah, it's hard to juggle.
And you used to work further all week, or yours has been like 3 days, or?
Pardon?
Did you work? Have you always worked like 3 days, or?
Oh yeah, I've got 5 days a week. Yeah,
Oh.
complete like 9 to 5 jobs. And so I would squeeze like creating content in like very early in the morning or like after work, or if I was in the office and I was going to like a meeting room, I'd have my phone walking from one end of the building to the other. I can like send out a quick tweet. So there were ways, yeah.
Yeah. And when you first started this channel on social media, did you have other people with ADHD who give you a helping hand? Anyone that you looked up to?
Initially, I was just like, there was no like thought about it. I was just posting.
See what happens.
Yeah, and then along the journey, quite a few people. So ADHD Alien, who does these comics, big comic artist in the ADHD community, who has helped many. She had started to just like, we became like really close friends. I would ask her, okay, so there's this topic I want to write about, but I think it benefits from like studies and research, you know, which doctors or professors have you looked into so I can quote them. When it comes to like being on panels, so I've spoken at a lot of companies, she'd be, you know, recommend me to like, oh yeah, you're into gaming, you're into comics, you should do this. Another person called Schnorman Bex, she got me onto the Comic-Con panel, so I speak every year. I've been speaking almost every year for the past 3 years on Comic-Con about neurodiversity and ADHD. Another lady, Black Girl Lost Keys, Renee Brooks, who's a Black American woman who writes about ADHD. So there's been quite a few people in the community who have said, you know what, this is, you know, great. It's very helpful. You should be speaking at panels and stuff like that.
And what businesses do you speak to?
So I've spoken out today, Facebook, Twitter when it was Twitter.
Oh, I've heard about that business actually going into the workplace and giving a talk.
Oh yeah, those.
Oh
Yeah.
So what kind of
So I've spoken about ADHD and neurodiversity in the workplace, like, you know, mental health, Twitter, Facebook, Ubisoft, Comic-Con, Baringa, neurodiversity in the workplace. I'm probably forgetting a few, forgive me. So yeah, quite a few companies. Yeah.
It's interesting because there are some companies that, like, for example, Voice.
Yeah.
My dad used to work there, and
Oh wow.
it would just be, there'll be some weird topic coming through, and be like, what's this got to do with what? What's this got to do with what?
Yeah.
And What's next for you now? Have you got any more panels coming up? Or?
Yeah, that's the goal. So I've been writing on Substack for years. I've now reached over 11,000 subscribers, which is insane to me given I was just writing whatever I thought. So the goal is to, write an ebook first and then launch a physical book to, help people with ADHD. And I really want to focus on universities this year. It's really kind of hard for students to see where I can make a greater impact, in society and, these little alpha groups.
And have you gone back to old university?
No, not yet. I really want to. That is the plan to go to my old university. So I might drop them an email sometime this year to kind of to see.
You're still working there? I thought you were retired.
yeah.
I get that a lot. So,
to do that. And with the flashcards, helping to kind of get them out to into universities, to kind of work with them to incorporate it and other businesses. So yeah.
Well, yeah, because everyone needs more support these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I said, you can plug yourself in here, so if people want to see your work, how can they do?
So you can find me across almost every social media site, the handle Adulting ADHD, also on Substack, and if you are interested in taking a look at these ADHD flashcards, you can find them at adhdtraits.com.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else you wanted to add in?
No, that's it.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Voice. Let's go. Voice FM.